Wow. Okay, everybody knows we're recording. Welcome to the kickoff event for this weekend's celebration of Scripps' 100th anniversary. It's an exciting time, and I can't see everyone who's here, but I know that a lot of you are coming in, and it's really great to see so many people. So for those of you whom I haven't met yet, I'm Jennifer Kinney. I'm a faculty member in gerontology, and I'm also a fellow with the Scripps Gerontology Center. And I have the pleasure of moderating this panel today, which is our big kickoff event. And I don't know that anyone could tell you how many hours that so many people have put into planning all of the events for this celebration throughout the year and this weekend. And I do want to let you know that there are 3 people helping behind the scenes on this particular session. We've got Leah Jansen, who's the Assistant Director of Academic Programs and Research Support at Scripps, who's helping on the Zoom end. And then some of you know that downstairs in room 2 Upham, there's a watch party. And so downstairs, Maureen Cunningham, who's an accounting technician at Scripps, and Jennifer Heston Mullins, who's the Associate Director of Research for Scripps, they're down there and they're going to play MCs, or they're going to help us communicate. This should work so that our plan is we'll talk for about 40 minutes and then we'll open it up for questions. And so people who are Zooming in, you can raise your hand or put something in the chat, and Leah and I will monitor that. And people who are downstairs can ask questions through Jennifer and Maureen. So with no further ado, let's get started. So today we get to hear from 4 of our previous W. Fred Cottrell Distinguished Alumni Award winners. And for those of you who don't know, the Cottrell Award recognizes Miami University Gerontology graduate student alumni for their outstanding contributions and leadership in the field of aging. And so today, in alphabetical order, we get to hear from 4 of the Cottrell winners. Alphabetically first is Robin Golden, who was the award winner in 2013. Next is Mark Collada, who was the award winner in 2021. Then Dr. Heather Meny won the award in 2017, and Takaya Moshita won the award in 2022. And the format for today is we have several questions that we're going to ask each panelist to address. And then, as I said, we'll open it up for questions at the end. So we thought we'd get started by asking each of the panelists to tell us their name, the program they were in, the year they graduated from Miami, what they're doing now, and the major milestones along the way. Now, I know that's kind of a lot, and I'm going to ask people to try to limit their comments to about 2 to 3 minutes so that we have plenty of time, because we have a couple of other questions we'd love to hear from everybody on. So, Robin, would you mind starting us off?
Not at all, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. Great to see so many familiar names and faces. I'm here in Chicago, the home office, of course, that we've all learned about home offices during COVID, and I wish I could be there in person. But I'm at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago and a proud Miami alum. I'm a little unique in that I'm an undergrad alum, so I never had the benefit of getting my master's in gerontology. I did get my master's in social work only because Dr. McGrew became my mentor at that point when I was in the sociology department as a major, where I took gerontology and social work courses. So that has been, and that was, I graduated in 81, so I'm starting off as the most ancient of all of you too. And what I'm doing now is a lot of, it's interesting, my whole career has been in more of the nonprofit community-based world. And then about 18 years ago, after a little brief stint in Washington doing some policy work, I went to a hospital because something I've learned the long and hard way is a lot of funding and older adult potential support can be looked at within the medical sector of our world, because there's more money than, say, in the older adult arena or the Older Americans Act. So it's been interesting to serve older adults within the context of an academic medical center. And that's been fascinating. And my major milestones along the way, receiving the award from you, having that stint in Washington and learning about policy work and one of the most frustrating things for me in my aging career has been developing programs for the more vulnerable and underserved, having those programs and having them go away when the funding went away. So I really wanted to understand policy a bit more to know how to maybe sustain and scale in a way that I wasn't aware of. So that has helped somewhat. And it's an interesting world, and aging is still a critical factor and so important for all of us to be focused on, because I feel like we're going backwards sometimes more than forward. And I hope my other colleagues will challenge me about that. But thank you.
Thank you. Great start. Mark, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I'm Mark Collada, and I am a proud alum of the class of '98 graduate program. And for those of you that don't know, not only was Miami good for a graduate degree for me, but it was also great to meet my wife, Jody, who's at the Scripps watch party. And so we were both in the same program at the same time. So not only are we a Miami merger, but we're a Scripps merger. So along with Katie and Aaron Abbott, we have that fine distinction. What I am doing now, I am the director of operations for a national management company. We serve about 32,000 seniors, primarily in the continuing care retirement community space. And so my portfolio consists of 7 retirement communities in the Southeast region, and Northeast. I've got 6 in the North Carolina and South Carolina region. And then we also have 1 in New Jersey that is part of my portfolio. So I help oversee the day-to-day operations of those communities that are all nonprofit, which is a really great space to be in these days. Certainly has challenges, but been doing that, been with Life Care Services for 17 years. I was actually, one of my milestones was prior to becoming a director of operations, I was actually a executive director of a community there in Greensboro for 12 years. And was really the hallmark, I would say, of my career, getting to work with 300 older adults. I always tell people it's like being mayor of a small town. As executive director, everybody comes to you with their problem, but you get to know all the families, and just a really intrinsically satisfying position for a very long time. And we were able to go through a successful repositioning of that campus, and just a lot to be proud of there. And that's one of the communities that I still oversee. So that will always be a very close community to my heart, and what have you. So those are some of my milestones. And obviously winning the Cottrell Award, particularly during the pandemic, was a special thing. I'm very proud of that. Very proud to be a Miami alum, particularly with Scripps. So
Excellent. Thank you. Heather.
Hey, everybody. I'm Heather Meny. I was in the MGS research track, finishing in 2001. I am currently a senior health policy researcher for RTI International. I've taken a bit of a circuitous route, as some may say. So some of the major milestones that I have accomplished since graduating from Miami included a PhD in sociology, heavy emphasis on aging and medical sociology from Case Western. Spent over 10 years up in Cleveland working for the Benjamin Rose Institute on Aging and getting to collaborate with colleagues across the state, including the folks at Scripps, which was great. Similar-ish to Robin, I did also do a policy stint in Washington as a health and aging policy fellow, which was very enlightening and definitely helped me pivot some of my research and my work moving forward. Sort of as a result of that, I moved to Washington permanently for a position with the federal government in the Office of Performance and Evaluation at the Administration for Community Living, which gave me the opportunity to see from the federal level how Older Americans Act, as well as disability-related programs are implemented, as well as evaluated. After a few years of that, and maybe an ulcer or two, I transitioned to RTI, where I actually still work for the government. A lot of my work involves supporting the Administration for Community Living in their dementia programming, as well as overall research and evaluation of their different programs. A couple of milestones I also want to highlight. I had the privilege during my time in Ohio to serve on the Ohio Association of Gerontology and Education, and I very much attribute that to my experience at Scripps, Jennifer, others on the call today who helped encourage and support that. I had to look it up. I was on the board for 14 years, and I know that's not the record. There are people that have been on that board for more decades than that. But, and I don't know if I'll get to it later, but I strongly, heavily encourage students and others to become involved in associations like that, just because of the opportunities it presents. I could babble endlessly, but I will stop there and look forward to hearing from Taka.
And Taka, before you introduce yourself, I apologize. You won the award in 2020, not 2022. So my apologies. Typo. Taka, tell us about you.
Hi everyone, I'm zooming in from somewhere between Baltimore and the Washington, D.C. area. I can get to either side within 15-20 minutes, so I'm sort of in an in-between area. My name is Takaya Moshita. I was in a social gerontology PhD program, and then I graduated from that program back in 2011. And I stayed there one more year as a postdoc. And then I left basically Ohio in 2012 to work as an assistant professor of sociology at University of Las Vegas, Nevada. And some people still ask, but I assure you that there is a university in Las Vegas, Nevada, so it's real. I'm not making this up. And I worked there for 5 years, and then I moved to University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And then I'm a faculty member in a sociology program, as well as the gerontology PhD program at the moment. Two like major milestones. So I think most of us are familiar with this academic career, traditional tenure track positions. So we usually spend the first 4 to 5 years working toward tenure. And then when I was in Las Vegas, I got promoted to associate professor from assistant professor, and I got tenured. And I moved to UMBC, my current institutions, and I just got promoted to the full professor this past July. So these are the two big milestones in my career.
Excellent. Thank you all. It's so impressive to see what everybody has done, and there's some interesting overlaps and then some differences. It's really exciting. The next question is, we're actually going to give you a choice, or if you can do it in 3 minutes, you're welcome to talk about both. We're curious about either where you see the field of aging going, and Robin, you opened the door for that a bit, or one piece of advice that you would give to people who are early in their careers. And again, a couple minutes, 2 to 3 minutes for each of you. And if you want to tackle both, that would be great. And I'll ask for volunteers who would like to tackle that first, either where you see the field going and or a piece of advice for younger professionals.
I'll go first.
Thanks.
I always like to volunteer, get it out of the way. So I guess one piece of advice that I would have, having been in this industry for the last 23 years, I guess, and I think my career is a great example of this, is just go where the opportunity is. And it sounded like the rest of our panelists have had similar types of journeys that aren't necessarily based in geography and staying in one location. That really going where the opportunity is, that's going to be a best fit for what you really want to do and pursue your passions, is far more important than being tied to some specific geography where maybe your family is and what have you, or where you grew up. And I see in my industry in particular, we work with a lot of younger professionals that want to become administrators or executive directors, and they get so focused on wanting to be in a certain area that I feel like it kind of inhibits their progression sometimes. And so I was very blessed, as an example, when I left Miami, that my first job out of Miami was in Omaha, Nebraska, as a startup manager for an assisted living company called Assisted Living Concepts. And we were there for 5.5 years. And that's when I knew I really had Jody. From a girl from New Jersey followed me out to Omaha, Nebraska. So I knew I had her right there. But then from Omaha, I got an opportunity in Des Moines, Iowa as a property manager. Wasn't necessarily exactly what I wanted to do with my life, but again, it was a good opportunity to learn a different aspect of the industry. And then moved to Columbus, Ohio. Came back to Ohio and joined a family-run assisted living company. And then from there, joined LCS. And so it was just really interesting to see how my career kind of transitioned across the Midwest. But I think if I hadn't been open to those opportunities, it wouldn't have led to ultimately the one that was really special to me, which is the one in Greensboro. So that would be the advice I would give to younger professionals.
Nice, thank you. Who wants to go next, either in terms of advice Heather, or where you see the field going? Heather.
Thanks. I wanted to follow up on what Mark shared because my advice, and I shared this in some of the MGS classes that I've spoken to on occasion, is to try the scary things. My title is health policy researcher, and as some have heard the story, supposedly I never took a health policy class at Miami. This is not accurate. But it wasn't what my passion was to begin with. But I've definitely grown into that. And I just would definitely encourage if there's a niggle of something that as a student you're curious about, or as a young professional trying to continue to find your way, this is a great opportunity to see, where it can take you. It might not bear fruit immediately, but it could be something that down the road, whether it's new connections, new ideas, new questions raised, I just very much strongly encourage. I've been doing this a little while and I'm still doing this. Thanks to Robin and her group, I'm signed up to take a Foundations of Mental Health Competency class. So again, I don't have a background in that, but I'm really curious and I'm willing to invest the 14 hours or whatever it is. So my advice is don't close yourself off and to take chances.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Thank you, Heather, for doing that and for always collaborating with me over the years around all things aging and care coordination and whatnot. So advice, I would suggest everybody, you've all been to parties where people, when you tell them what you do, they look at you askance and say, why gerontology? Why aging? Why older adults? So I think everyone should hone their elevator speech and try to be an ambassador for this amazing field that we're in, because I do think that people don't get it and see how critical it is. And particularly in this time where everything we're talking about is DEI and equity, now more than ever, my feeling is that older adults are going to be lost from that equity discussion. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure they're not. In terms of where the field's going, Larka's on the phone and she and I are involved in a lot of discussions nationally about how aging is aligning with this whole world of the world finding out what social determinants of health are. And, our world has been attending to social determinants of health and social needs and social care for 1 million years, but a lot of people act like they just found it. So it's really critical too that we are able to get to the table where these decisions and things are happening, where payers are paying for social care, where it's not just a trickle-down phenomena, that aging organizations get involved and help people with just getting crumbs and not getting decent payment in order to keep their lights on, et cetera. The AAA network out there in the home and community-based world is such a strong one, and Scripps knows that because you've studied it so much and influenced the evidence related to it and improved our practice so much, so thank you for that. But, how do we keep front and center our usefulness, our value? And again, particularly in this whole health arena that a lot of this is getting played out in, how do we make sure that we're a critical part of the table? That when a managed care or an ACO starts working with older adults, that they have to work with the AAA in town. They have to work with other agencies that know this world. And it's a critical time. It's a time that I know a lot of you understand better than I, where the for-profit world is really inching in some of our arenas. And how do we not try to push them out, but how to work with them in a way that's going to be most effective to provide the quality of care that our older adults need in this country.
Thank you. Taka.
I think those are excellent advices, and some of them I can totally resonate with that. And so I was thinking about maybe like 3 simple advices first. One is, so I can only speak to the academic career because I've never worked in private industries. So if any of you in this thinking about academic career, I think the one simple piece of advice is to have lots of method training. It doesn't really matter if it's statistics or qualitative methods or even computer programming or GIS mapping, whatever. Having that methods toolbox in the earlier stage of career set you sort of up for the rest of your career. I've been in this field almost 10 years now, but I think having a method training is such an important thing. And as your career advances in academia, you have less and less time available to yourself. You have more responsibility, administrative responsibilities, and the services. So you have limited time to teach yourself new things. So it's really important to have solid method training when you are in a graduate program or in the earlier stage of career. So that's my first point. The second point is the networking and then, investing professional relationships. I wasn't very good at it. I'm still not good at it. But I think having, gerontology is actually a quite small world. So once you establish a good relationship, who knows, what kind of things might come out of that relationship. So it's really important. And then, a couple of personal examples, maintaining a good professional relationship is, like I said, I've been doing this job for almost 10 years now, but I still sometimes, email Suzanne Kanko and say, I'm on this big grant project now, and I've never done my evaluation research. But I'm the evaluation lead for this project. I'm probably not supposed to say that when it's recorded, but I'll share that for the sake of your professional development. So Suzanne gave me, so this is how you can get it started. I bought a textbook and started reading, teaching myself how to conduct evaluation research. And in the meeting, I have to sort of not pretend, but I have to act like I know what I'm doing. So that helps. Also, once in a while in academic career, there is like some very unique issues that not too many people have experienced. So in that case, I usually just call Jennifer Kinney and then, Jennifer, I need your advice. And, we sometimes chat for quite a long time. And I really appreciate your mentorship, even after 10 years leaving Miami University. So maintaining good relationship, establishing good working relationship with, people in the field is quite important. And the final advice is that I think some of you already mentioned this, but the gerontology, unfortunately, is not well-known field. So if you go to GSA, Gerontological Society of America annual conference, that's fine. Everybody knows what the gerontology is, but I often go to different field of academic conferences, like education conferences. Not too many people know what the gerontology is. So it is important for us to be able to present ourselves as a gerontologist and then, tell people like what we do, who we are, in such a way that everyone can actually understand. And once my colleague told me that, gerontologists are like exotic animals. So, they don't get to see a gerontologist or a PhD gerontologist in the wild that often. So it is important for us to tell like who we are. I think that's a really important piece of advice. And then in terms of where the field is going, so I don't have the answer for this, but I was actually thinking about this. And then this summer, as a part of my next sort of like a project, my colleague and I started developing the global aging course that takes the graduate students from US to Japan, where the percent older adults is one of the highest in the world. And we actually go there and visit public sectors, the policy institute, universities, and the private industries to learn about how this, super aging society is managing these aging related issues. So we did that sort of like a planning trip this summer. But what I recognized is that what we learn in the US in the field of gerontology is very new to outside of the US. So I think it's time for us to start exporting some of our expertise, some of our knowledges. And also there are so many things we can learn from outside of the US. So I think where the field is going next might be, above and beyond context of the US. I think Miami University gerontology program is already focusing on global aging, past many years, but I think field is now moving toward that direction. So that's my quick observations.
Thank you to all of you for these great comments. And we have one more question before we open it up to questions from the Zoom watchers and the people down in the watch party. We were curious to know, what is one of your favorite memories of your time at Scripps? And whomever would like to start, you are more than welcome to do so.
For me, it was learning from Dr. Seltzer, Millie Seltzer, and Bob Atchley, not Bob. I'm too old to have learned from Bob Applebaum at school, but I have learned from him a lot as the years have gone on. So that's one of my favorite memories. But for me, to be connected to all of you at conferences like GSA, ASA has always been a thrill. There's just this connection, synergy, passion that I pick up from you that's palpable. So I thank you for that always, and embracing me in that way.
For those of us who didn't have the privilege of knowing Millie or Bob, could you do one or two sentences about each of them?
They were, many founders of the field of gerontology, and that they talked about aging in terms of the value, in terms of not being at a time of just diminishment of capacity, but of being growth related. And it really made a difference for me as a social worker. Many years later, I was the only one in a family service agency that would take any older adults on as for care management and or counseling. And people would look at me and say, what makes you think they could, why would you want to work with older adults? And I learned from both of those two wonderful faculty that people can grow and develop at any age. And I found that in my practice world. And it's so true and true to this day.
Thank you for sharing that. That means a lot to us. Thank you. Who's next?
Well, I would say that my favorite Scripps gerontology moment, I'm going to try and score some brownie points with the misses, but obviously seeing Jody for the first time, and love at first sight for me, and it took her a while to come around. But anyway, I see her waving over there. But no, seriously, I think, one of the things that I think why Jody and I are so proud of the program is we just had a great experience those 2 years. And it's such a family-oriented program, such a close-knit program, where you just really get to, just be really involved with your colleagues, special relationship that we have with each of our professors. As Jody and I were driving up this morning, we were just listing off all the professors that, we had courses with and did study with and what have you. And I guess my favorite moment, if I had to drill it down to one, and there's just so many, is in our second year, and I think it was in the spring, a group of us went out to San Francisco. I think it was for the GSA conference. And again, it was just such a great trip. That was a lot of fun and really helped culminate kind of toward the end of the program. But at the same time, I know that a few of us gave presentations there, and it was just really great to be off campus and see the impact that Scripps has and the reputation that Scripps has nationally. But then also coming together and having a really good time in San Francisco, and just a really highlight of my 2 years here at Miami. So.
Well, and Mark, are you comfortable doing a sentence or two about what you and Jody have recently done with the Collada Award? Is that something?
Sure.
Just please mention that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity. So, we have always felt very blessed that when we were at Miami, Jody was a beneficiary of a full assistantship. I was a part-time assistantship. And so financial support for both of us that were, I would say, from modest backgrounds. Both of our parents were teachers, or kind of at that level. My mom was actually a CNA. And so I think we always had it in the back of our minds that at some point we would like to give back and contribute to the Scripps. And thanks to some real blessings over the last couple of years, and our company kind of selling some equity, we were in the position a lot sooner than we ever thought we would be to start a fellowship in the summer between the first and second year. And Jody and I were both beneficiaries of really good internships and practicums. But we also know how tight money was during that summer. And so we wanted to really target, as we kind of worked with the Suzanne and the development office, we really saw a need to provide a little bit of financial support for somebody doing that internship that might have to go back out of state or what have you. And I think that's just such a critical time in the program, is that summer internship. And to the extent that we can support it going forward is very meaningful for us. So.
Well, and I just wanted to publicly acknowledge it because it really does make a difference in those students' lives. And so thank you for that. And people have saw you and your names as part of the practicum presentations in the fall, but we wanted to make the link with you are the people who made that happen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. Heather or Taka, favorite Scripps memory?
I can go. So yeah, I think like Mark said, there are so many good memories, so it's difficult to narrow down to one, but this is not a specific event, but in general, I really enjoyed the interaction with diverse students and the faculty members in the Upham Hall. They all brought, both from domestic and international students, faculty members, bringing different and unique ideas, experience, and the skill sets to the program. And so I really enjoyed the wide range of interactions. And, when I was a grad student there, I thought being able to see and talk to faculty members just across the hallway was normal. But after I moved to Las Vegas and Baltimore, it's very different. So our program is sort of a joint campus program. So there's one campus in the Baltimore downtown, and the other one, that's the University of Maryland, Baltimore. And the one I belong to is the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, which is 15 minutes away from that Baltimore downtown. So students sometimes have to either drive or take a bus and navigate through some kind of chaotic Baltimore downtown to go to see faculty members. So compared to that, I was very lucky to have faculty members very close by, just across the hallway. But after becoming a faculty, I can kind of imagine that Jennifer and other faculty member might have been annoyed by some of the students like me. We went to their office all the time and kept asking questions like, why are they coming back all the time? And so I now see the both sides of the perspectives, but I think that was very good memories.
Thank you, Taka. Heather.
So similar theme to what the others have shared. For me, it's not one specific event. I could call up specific things, but I think it was more of a feeling of family. I think Mark used that word. There's 3 examples that come to mind if I can. One is even before I accepted to start the master's program, my mom and I visited campus, and after she met Jennifer, she's like, you can go there. You will be okay. Lo and behold, yes, absolutely. And then in addition to working with Dr. Kinney, I got to work with Dr. Straker and Dr. Medizade in my graduate assistantships. And Jane was so instrumental in helping me get an awesome practicum in downtown Chicago. And I used to babysit for Bennett, which is crazy right now because he has his own child. But and then Shala, bless her heart, every week it would either be a question of, what did you do this weekend? Or what are you going to do this weekend? So it had nothing to do with gerontology or aging or some lit review I just didn't want to do. It was more like, are you taking advantage of all these other things around you? And to me, that family feeling, in addition to, lovely receptions and whatever else, that those are the main memories that I'm taking away to share today.
Thank you all for this. I think it's says a lot about Scripps and what Scripps has done in terms of the things you just shared. So thank you. We now have time to open it up to for questions from the audience. Leah and I will both be checking the chat. Robin, one thing that you might not have seen is that Lark did mention that you've been a great asset to practical gerontology and social work practice. So your work is being
Thank you,
acknowledged by
Lark.
your colleagues.
Thank you, Lark.
Anybody have questions? All right, is that a hand in the watch party? I can't tell. I need new glasses.
So it looks like Sean Davis maybe is talking. He's maybe dictating to Jennifer.
Oh, perfect.
I
Okay.
can't tell,
Okay.
but and so it might be just a minute.
Okay, let's be
she types
patient.
that up. And then also people can feel free to unmute or type it in the chat. And this is always the awkward silence while we're waiting for people to like kind of get their thoughts together. So we'll be patient and see what kind of questions we can get. I don't know why we don't have audio in that room.
Was that somebody's question?
Oh
We
no,
thought
that's
we
just
would. That was the plan.
Maybe the 200th anniversary.
Here's hoping.
yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
What do I feel like Katie wants us to play charades or something?
She wants us to be quiet.
Sounds like.
Okay. Maybe they're speaking.
Clearly something's happening. I
Oh,
just don't know.
someone might be chatting in now.
Dawn might be, are they trying to
I'm
call
holding her
in?
phone, yeah.
They're gonna call in to have video
Oh,
or
wait,
audio.
here's a question for Robin. Pertaining to equity/DEI, how can aging be more aligned to the trends with shifting toward better equity and DEI-based work?
I think we all have to be addressing this one. It's huge. Here's the danger. The danger is saying to a bunch of folks who are focusing on race and ethnicity that aging is as critical, because I've gotten shot down for that. So I think it has to be done within the context of this is another uniqueness that people bring that has to be addressed without diminishing the critical aspect of what our world is for people who are Black and brown. So I don't know if that's the answer. I think I don't have the answer for this. We're struggling with it a lot. And we have a center for where Heather's taking that class that she mentioned, a center funded by mental health, looking at the disparities in older adults in terms of mental health. And we're struggling with it there too. So I'd love your thoughts, but there's a lot of work to be done. And we can't take over and say that aging is more important. We have to say aging is critical, but within the context that age can stand alone, but not forget that race and ethnicity is just as critical or as important. So I'm sorry if that was circular, but that's about where I am with it.
Do any of the other panelists have thoughts about
Yeah, I'd
this?
love to hear.
Or anyone in the audience? I was going to give panelists first dibs, but if anyone can contribute to this, it's really important.
How are you looking at it curriculum-wise, Jennifer? You know,
Yeah. Curricularly, there's a lot going on at Miami, and I would say that a lot of the gerontology classes have inherently embedded issues of DE&I in our, and we've embedded it in the courses, but not as explicitly as we could have. And so we recently had the opportunity at the undergraduate level to specifically revise certain courses with an eye toward really putting DE&I first and center. And so that's happening in the introductory undergraduate level introductory course, and also in our global aging course, which it needed some revision to make it really truly embracive. We're just launching those new efforts. And at the graduate level, I am happy for some of my colleagues to jump in if anybody would like to jump in. Anyone? One of the things, I'm going to keep talking until somebody jumps in or raises their hand or tells me it's time to be quiet. One of the things that we pilot tested among the international graduate students this as part of orientation this year was we did a workshop for students for whom American academic English is not their primary language. And we're working with a center on campus called the English Language Learner Writing Center, really trying to help the international students understand what an American classroom looks like, and then teaching them tools to understand some of the process of writing and how they can actually work toward increasing academic American English proficiency on their own and with the support of the university. We've got an excellent center on campus. And so that's a small step at the student level. And other colleagues who want to share information on what they're doing in terms of DE&I?
That's great. See something in the text. Miami staff have been asked to have one performance goal related to DEI this year. So this is something we'll be exploring. That's great.
Other questions? A question from one of the doctoral students. Thank you so much for all the panelists. What should be considered when making a decision on whether to work in industry or academia? Excellent question. Who wants to jump in?
I think that's why it's so important to really try some different things. And one of the things I really appreciated when I came to Scripps and the gerontology program was during those 2 years, I really got a sense by taking different courses that I didn't want to do policy, that I wasn't a researcher, that I was meant to be out in the field, actually, hands-on, was based on my skill set. And so I think that's what I appreciate about the Scripps experience, was it really helped me tune into what my passions were. And so to the extent that, you can have those different experiences, I guess, and try different things while you're there, will certainly guide you as to, where you want to go and what you want to do. And as I think we can all attest to, just because you go down one road doesn't mean that has to be your path for life, right? You can certainly pivot if you need to. And so it's not an all or none decision in my mind. So.
Others on that topic?
I can probably add one quick thing. So for the academic positions, it's not something that opportunity pops up to you. So you sort of have to make a decision earlier in the grad program or, at some point in your life, and start working toward getting that specific positions. So, you may need to have certain, research experience, publication record, teaching experience, and other, passion to teach new generation students. So there are things that they need to have. It's more like an, baseline background license. So I think exploring a lot of different things is quite important. But once you decide to take on academic career, I think there are things you must do in order to get the positions. So I think preparation matters. So I mean, the question is, how do we make a decisions? But I think what I'm responding to is, if you decided to go for academic route, then there are things you have to do. So exploring a lot of different options in the earlier stages of your career and make a decision, and then prepare yourself for the next phase. is also important perspective, in my opinion.
Thank you. All right, we've got two more questions. One question, another one for Robin. How have you been able to navigate the gerontology field successfully with principles and practice of social work background? That's one question. And the second question, which is related, your advice to social workers trained and practiced in Africa on navigating the field of gerontology in the US context. That's a lot. Two really good questions.
Yeah, the first one, thank you. The second one, I'd love to talk to you offline sometime in any way it can be helpful. That's a tough one. The first one, I think they've gone hand in glove, and people like Angela Curl can speak to that. My dear colleague, social work, gerontology friend, Kathy McGrew, that I've never seen a conflict, because social work is all about starting with where the person is, and gerontology should be the same. And how do you build from there and create and figure out what people need, and how do we train people to best serve them? I think they're a perfect connect. In our field of social work, it's been hard. As Angela was part of it, I mean, we've kind of gone backwards in some ways in schools of social work, getting people interested in aging. And it's unfortunate. There was incentivization at one point through the John A. Hartford Foundation, along with physicians and nurses, that they're no longer supporting. And we've seen a backdrop then as a result of that. So I think anyway, in our geriatric workforce enhancement programs, which I happen to be in one at Rush, there are 44 across the country, and I know they work well together and trying to make sure our workforce is gerontology friendly, that they know what it's like, that they're not going to say to somebody, oh, you're depressed just because you're old. I mean, that can't be the way it is anymore. And how do we just keep working together? So I think social work and gerontology has a wonderful connect, and I've been able to make that connect, as have others. And I've never seen a misalignment in it whatsoever, but maybe Angela wants to speak to that too. And the second one, I would love to talk to you offline about that. So anyway, Leah can give you my information and just reach out to me. Maybe someone else can speak to that one.
Yes, I will send you both an email and connect you on email right now.
Thank you.
Oh, we have another question. All this information was so helpful. Would you say that, would each of you say that most gerontologists stay in one field, or do you see them switching positions over the course of their careers? And you all have been in various aspects of the aging network, so you can maybe talk a little bit about where you see gerontologists and what that looks like. Heather, do you encounter gerontologists in your day-to-day life?
I do. I work with a handful of people that have gerontology PhDs from other places. I also work with a number of colleagues that maybe don't have the technical credential attached to their name, but their work is so aging centric that I would consider them a gerontologist, whether that is they run an adult daycare program, or they are, delivering nutrition programs for seniors. Researchers that I work with on a daily basis. Less so have I clearly seen them in the policy space, which is a little disheartening, but that might just be my limited observations. So I feel like we can see people with strong gerontology backgrounds in quite a few different places. In terms of switching positions over the years, I think it varies quite a bit. Some people, I, for one, thought I would stay with the same organization my entire career, and I, have changed jobs a few times now. So again, I think it just varies quite a bit. Similar to examples shared earlier, it's okay to try new things. It helps us each continue to grow and kind of spread the word also.
Anyone else on the panel want to comment on that about gerontologists and where they are?
All I will say, and I think Taka raised this point, is that we're all gerontologists, whether we do it professionally or personally. It's amazing, I'm sure on a weekly basis, how often I get either a colleague from another industry or a fellow Rotarian that has a question for me about whatever, the long-term care system, about applying for Medicaid, about caregiver issues that, Jody works with on a daily basis. So regardless, you're seen as the expert. And even within your family, it's been interesting to see as my parents age, just starting to utilize some of that information and the education that we have to be more sympathetic about the aging process and what have you. So that's a long-winded answer to say that whether you do it professionally or you do it personally, you're still going to have that influence on a lot of different people. So,
Robin or Taka, want to jump in on that one?
I just think it's the greatest value of a career in gerontology is the variety of roles you can play. So I just can't say that loudly enough. And, I don't know if there's any data on how much people switch jobs or whatever, but I know myself, the fact that I've been a clinician and dabbled in research and policy, as well as, program development, that's just been the richness of my career. So I'm all about being a generalist.
Taka, do you want to add to this?
Sure. So mine's not exactly moving, from one job to the another, but even so, I've been only experiencing, my career in academia, but within academia, being a gerontologist have some perks. Like I sometimes work with people from a Department of Education or Department of Public Health, Epidemiology, medical school. So I get to sort of like move around within the realm of academia. So, sometimes like I work with physicians in Las Vegas, Nevada, through geriatric workforce improvement programs as a sort of like health literacy or education expert. And then I get to work with, public health people who I don't usually interact with. So being a gerontologist, having an expertise in area of aging, you could be valued in multiple areas. So, if you got tired of sociology, you can always work with psychologists or other people. So within academia, I get to sort of move around. And then whenever I see opportunities, I try to jump on. So being a gerontologist, not just across the field, but within the field, you might have more flexibilities depending on your expertise.
Perfect. And we have one last question from the watch party, I think. I don't know where it's from. The question is, I know we're short on time, but how do you navigate conversations and perhaps work or projects with those who may not get gerontology?
I think one of the best ways lately, everyone's worried about somebody in their family or friendship circle. And that's the toe in the door. To talk about caregiving, and that caregiving is gerontology, and making that connect that if we build better systems, people will not be as stressed out and burdened, and all of those things we're so self-serving at times that we got to connect to that personal. And it's been shown even in Congress, when you get someone who's dealing with an aging mother, or parent or spouse, you can get them interested. And believe it or not, that's a way to do it.
Anyone else?
it goes back to the question earlier about where we see the industry going. And, you talk about demographics and the whole baby boom cohort and the influence that they're going to have going forward in the next 20 to 30 years. I think is going to be really interesting to see. We're already starting to see it at the retirement community level, and, just revising our amenities, the expectations, et cetera. The baby boomers are here and they have a very loud voice. And it's going to be interesting to see that demographic continue to influence public policy and other things. It's just going to be really, I think, great. So we're in the right position at the right time, no doubt about it, as gerontologists. So.
Any other words of advice when you encounter somebody who doesn't get it? Heather, you rolled your eyes when I read the question. Do you want to share anything?
There was something that popped in my head. So for about 5 minutes, I worked on a project for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. I was really confused for those entire 5 minutes because they kept talking about the participants. And I'm like, do you mean the older adults? No, the participants. I'm like, what are you talking about? They meant the providers.
Wow.
And it just hit me in the head. We have a lot of CMS work where I am based, but we don't have a huge aging program. But I'm like, that's all aging. It's all aging. It's also economics, it's quality, it's fine, it's all those things, but it's aging. And if I'm actually able to accomplish one thing within the Institute there, it will be to try and nudge that conversation further, because as I mentioned, I do work with some selected staff who have PhDs in gerontology and background in it, but it's not the preponderance. And so I think that's where I was a little caught off guard and not quite sure how to give a proper response to that.
Well, and we've got a couple minutes left. One of the things we were going to ask each panelist was to, we're curious about, if you could accomplish one thing professionally, what would it be? And I think Heather just gave us a short term. If you could get that going, that would be good. Anybody else, if you could accomplish one thing, what would it be?
Help people be less scared about getting old. Because I think that's a lot of why they don't get gerontology.
And there are some efforts underway that
Yeah.
hopefully will get us there.
Well, and all the anti-ageism work has been really interesting. So if you haven't followed that, please look at that. That comes out of Gerontological Society at this point.
Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
I think along the similar line, I think you've seen a lot more, not only in the media, but just culturally about successful aging and what does that look like, with the Blue Zone work and some other things. And I think with the baby boomers, I think that's only going to continue to rise in prominence and discussion about, as you kind of continue to age, what are the tools and resources out there that can help you navigate the best part of your life. And I see it every day with our 80, 90-year-olds. You ask them, what's the best time of your life? And they say, it's right now. And we need to get that message out more to people to break down some of those barriers like Robin was talking about. So,
Taka, if you could accomplish one thing, what would it be?
That's a really difficult question, but I was just thinking that, I think I want to do my part in a field of gerontology. So I think I would like to grow a gerontology doctoral program or graduate level gerontology program, and then maybe compete with traditional disciplines. I don't know how or how soon that's possible, but I think we want to, as a gerontologist, we want to go, head to head with like other traditional discipline.
Well, if you want to partner, you've got some willing partners on this end for sure. Two things. We got a reminder from the watch party that there is a session about ageism tomorrow for those of you who are going to be available to do that. And somebody informed us that it's from 11 to 11:50 in the morning. And in the interest of time, I want to, first of all, thank our panelists. This was so inspiring. And I think it's great to hear about what's happened through your eyes in terms of your careers as gerontologists, and just so much hope for the future and about what's going to happen next. And I want to thank everybody who attended today to help us kick off this celebration that's going to go on all weekend. And here's to the next 100 years for Scripps. Thank you, everybody. This was really enjoyable.